Greetings and welcome back to the channel. You're watching Unbiased Magic Reviews, the most honest magic review channel here on YouTube. If you're new to my channel, welcome. These are the type of reviews you can expect here. Analytical, detailed reviews from magic products that I've purchased over the years and that I have road tested on real audiences. Now, I have no affiliations with any magic companies, which is why I call this the most honest magic review channel here. I'm not here to sell you anything. If you've noticed, I give away a lot of my own creations to you guys for free. And the reality is that 1 hour of my work in the hospital, I generate more money than I do in a whole year making these magic reviews for you guys. So I do these reviews to help you save money. Keep that in mind. Remember, no one sends me this stuff, and I'm putting this together to try to help you guys out. Anyway, I'm not asking you to subscribe to the channel. That's your prerogative if you want to. I mean, it's up to you, but what I'm trying to give you guys is a little bit of honest feedback of products that I've road tested, that I've collected over the years. Hopefully will help you make a more educated decision on the stuff that you decide to buy. And I get emails all the time from people telling me that I save them money every day, which that is what motivates me to do these reviews. Anyway, today I have another top 5 magic review, and this type of analytic review you're not gonna find on any other magic review channel. This represents magic that I have collected over the past 30 years and road tested. So today I'm presenting to you guys my top 5 Gaffed open prediction effects. Now keep in mind that none of this stuff is brand new, because this is the top 5 of all the magic that I've collected over the years of open prediction effects. So unless one of those effects came out this year, which they didn't, obviously. In fact, the #1 effect is 45 years old. How crazy is that, right? Although it's been reinvented multiple times, which just blows your mind completely. Anyway, in the usual fashion, I'm gonna go through a couple of notable mentions. I'm gonna give you guys my criteria for what I use to select this top 5 magic review, and then we're going to go over the actual top 5. I'm going to show you guys a couple of demos, and then I'm going to also give you guys some recommendations. So I would urge you to stick through to the end for those, because I think that there's some nice little gems here that you're going to like a lot. So let's first start out with just the criteria that I used for this top 5 review today. So it was very simple. The first criteria was, since these are all Gaffed effects, right? I wanted to make sure that none of these used any sleight of hand. So you may notice that in the notable mentions that there may be 1 or 2 that use a little bit of sleight of hand. And so because of that, they obviously didn't make it to the top 5. So none of the top 5 use any sleight of hand whatsoever. And all of the top 5 spectators do all of the dealing themselves. So that was really important to me, that, you know, I wanted to make sure that they were doing all the dealing themselves. And then the other part of the criteria was that the flow of the effect follows the normal, you know, suit of the Paul Curry style open prediction effect, where you make a prediction, the spectator deals cards face up, and somewhere along the ways they deal a card face down. That is the normal type of pattern of the open prediction effect by Paul Curry. So let's start out with taking a look at a couple of notable mentions, and then we'll get into the top 5 list. So the first notable mention is one by Raphael Zaja. I think I can pronounce his name right. This comes from the R&B Project, and this is called the Odd Pen Prediction. Now, this effect really, it feels like an open prediction effect, although the prediction really is not open because it's dealt face down. But this looks and feels so close to an open prediction type effect, which is why I'm mentioning it here as a notable mention. And I've actually tweaked it slightly myself, just so it look a little bit cleaner. And I'm going to show you guys a demo of what it looks like right now. Let's take a look at it. All right, so the odd pen prediction effect, this is one of my favorite playing card prediction effects because it's extremely convincing to lay people. It looks completely impossible, and it's a distant cousin to the open prediction type effect, which is why I mentioned it as a notable mention. You take out a deck of cards and you say, look, I've got an odd backed card, as a prediction of sorts, and we're going to use this blue deck. I'm just going to give this a little shuffle so that way nobody knows the order of the cards. You hand them to the spectator and you say, I want you to just deal down, and whenever you feel an urge, whenever that is, right, you're going to just stop dealing. So they're going to deal as much as they want. Maybe they decide to stop there, and then you can offer them, you want to deal a few more, or you're happy there. It's just up to you. Maybe they decide to deal a few more cards. Whenever they want to, they stop, and you say, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to take my prediction, I'm going to put it right on top of where you stopped, okay? What card do you think I predicted? You know, what card do you think that is? They'll say a card, and then you say, look, it's actually the Jack of Clubs, and we're going to isolate it along with the card that you stopped us on right there. Now I want you to take a look at something here so you can see. Keep in mind something. There's no other red cards in this deck except for the one that I've predicted here. And in case you're wondering, check this out. There's no other Jack of Clubs in the deck. So they could look through the deck and they could see that there's no other Jack of Clubs. There is a Jack of Spades here, but there's no other Jack of Clubs. And then whenever they want to, they can turn over the card that they stopped you at, which of course is the other Jack of Clubs. And these two cards can be completely examined. There's nothing to find. There's no gimmicks, which is great. The effect looks extremely clean, and it looks really fair. This is exactly what it looks like, which is great. One of my favorite prediction effects with playing cards. I think that you will like it as well. Now I've made a few small modifications to the original effect so it could look this squeaky clean, but my own modification was very, very minor. Most of it was already there in the original effect. So that was the odd pen prediction, and you can see how it looks. It's a very clean, very direct open prediction type effect that gets really good reactions, which is why I mention it here to you guys. Moving along, we have our second notable mention, which is Trost's open prediction, and this comes from his book, Subtle Card Creations, Volume 1. It is a very quick, direct open prediction effect, which uses a very common gaff that we all have, but it just didn't meet my criteria for the top 5, although I have used it extensively, especially as a coincidence type effect. I'm going to show you guys a quick demo of what that looks like. Let's take a look at it. Nick Trost's open prediction is an open prediction effect that I've used as a coincidence type effect. It's very simple to perform. You show the spectator that all the cards are different. You tell them that you're going to try to influence them in a moment because you're going to try to get them to stop you on the Joker. And they may get a laugh with that. And you tell them, look, I'm going to deal cards face up like this. And at some point you can say stop whenever you want to, but I'm going to try to influence you again, like I said. So you go through the deck. At some point they'll say stop. You deal one card face down and you say, so we've got here just one card face down, as you can see, and they can clearly see that there is only one card face down, which this is the card that they stopped you at. And you tell them, but remember, I told you I was going to influence you. Do you remember what card I told you that I was going to get you to stop on? They'll say, yeah, the Joker. You say, yeah, this is what's interesting, is that's exactly where you stopped us at, the Joker. All right, so the last notable mention comes from a book I mentioned in my last top 5 open prediction review, which is the David Gemmell book called Open Ended. And there was an effect near the end of the book which was called the Open Prediction Deck. Now, this was a Gaffed deck which takes the whole plot and turns it on its head. I found it very interesting and gets great reactions, which is why I'm mentioning it here to you guys as a notable mention. The effect feels a lot like a mental open prediction effect. So here's what it looks like. You take a deck of cards out, you put on the table, you ask the spectator to merely think of a card. Then you make an open prediction yourself, and you tell the spectator that you want them to take the cards out of the deck and you want them to start dealing them face up, looking for the card that they're merely thinking of. As they start doing this, they're going to immediately notice that on the back of each card, there's a totally different card written on the deck. So the whole deck has different cards written on the back of each one. So they're dealing the cards face up, looking for their card. Once they see the card that they're merely thinking of, they isolate it. At that point, if you want, you can have them go through the rest of the cards looking to make sure that there's no duplicates of the card that they were thinking of. Then at that point, you can show them that the one card that they thought of, the card that's written on the back, is your open prediction, and all the other cards don't have that open prediction written on it. So it really turns the whole plot on its head, and it's very interesting, and so that's why I mentioned it to you guys here in case you want to check it out. Okay guys, let's take a look at my top 5 Gaffed open prediction effects. Now keep in mind that this represents the magic that I have collected over the years, so you may believe that I've missed something, which that's okay. Just leave us a comment below. Make sure that the effect that you are mentioning fits the criteria, because oftentimes people will mention routines that don't fit the criteria whatsoever. So please at least be cognizant about that. Now, each of these effects use a completely different method. Some of them use similar gaffes, and these are all extreme beginner level effects because, as I mentioned, part of the criteria is that there is no sleight of hand. I've organized this in order of my favorites, meaning that number 1 and number 2 are my favorite, although I really like all of them. And I've performed all of them over the years, and they're all really good effects. Some have some advantages over others, but I would say that they're all really good, and it's really up to your personal taste of what you might like more than another effect. But again, my favorite is number 1. Probably number 1 and number 2 is pretty much equal, really. It's hard to really put one above the other, and I'm going to even go over a routine that uses the same principle as number 1, but uses a totally different presentation that I think you guys may be interested in, so stay tuned for that. That'll be at the end of this top 5 review. So starting out with number 5, we have an effect that is called The Last Prediction by Neil X, and I picked this up back in 2014. It's a very simple open prediction type effect, one that you can carry with you and have ready to go whenever you want. You don't have to use it if you don't want to, but it's just something you always have ready to roll. The actual gaff that you have to put together is very easy. You'll have it set up very quickly. Let's take a quick look at the trailer so you get an idea what it looks like. Okay, so in this version, the performer is going to openly write down a prediction. This is typical for your open prediction type effect. Then takes the cards out of the box and lets the spectator shuffle them, which that's always good when you can do that. I like how they made sure they tell you that there. At this point, he's telling the spectator to just start dealing cards face up, and that they're to stop whenever they want to. This is your typical open prediction type pattern. And it's nice that this, of course, is all in the spectator's hands. Here he's asking her if she's sure she wants to stop there or go further. So she's like, yeah, I'll go a little further. And I'm sure that you probably get that a lot too, where people, they don't trust it. They feel like maybe it's a force or something and they want to go a little further. So at this point, she's going to deal the card face down where she stopped. That's her selection, which gets isolated underneath a rubber band on top of the card box there. And he then tells the spectator to keep dealing, looking for that Queen of Hearts, because that was the prediction that he made openly. And as you can see, there is no Queen of Hearts as she goes through it here. So logic dictates that if you haven't seen it yet, of course, this has got to be it. And this is really nice and clean how you can show that that card matches. Very simple, and you're going to love that. Moving along to number 4, we have an effect from Shane Cobalt called 50 Faces North. Now, I picked this up back like at least 8 years ago now. I think it was maybe 6 years ago, somewhere around there. It's been quite a while, but this is an open prediction effect where the handling is done completely by the spectator, which is great. So in this version, you hand a spectator a deck, you make your open prediction, and as usual, you have them deal cards face up until they want to deal a card face down. They put the rest of the deck on top and they spread the cards out. You can let them turn all the other face down cards face up. They're not going to see your open prediction. The one card, the first card that they dealt face down, of course, that is the one that matches the prediction. The reason I really like it is because the handling is super simple and it's all done in the spectator's hands. I think that you guys might like it too, which is why this is number 4 on my list. Moving along to number 3, we have a rather old effect, which is an effect from Bruce Servon, and this is the open prediction from the Servon file. Now, I picked up this book way back, like in the 90s is when it was, quite a while ago. And the reason why I'm mentioning this Gaffed open prediction effect here is because I thought it had a really nice extra convincer that I've had a lot of good success with over the years, where it follows the same usual open prediction style, where you have a deck of cards, you explain to the spectator you're going to make an open prediction, you let them deal the cards face up. At some point, they deal the card face down, and at that point, you can take out a Sharpie and let the spectator sign their name on the back of the card, because you tell them we want to make sure that this card doesn't get switched or anything. I really liked that extra convincer. You show them that they could have stopped anywhere, of course. The rest of the cards are placed on top and they're spread out, and they can see that there's only obviously one card that's face down with their signature on the back. And when it's turned over, it matches, of course, the open prediction. There's a very simple cleanup, and I really liked it because it uses an old gaff that many of us have forgotten about. Well, it uses a couple of gaffs actually, but it does use something that many of us don't really use anymore in a very clever way. And I really like the idea of adding the signature to the back of the card, just as an aside, so that way it just makes it feel like there's no way there's going to be any funny business of switching things, which is why this is number 3 on my list of top 5 Gaffed open prediction effects. Moving along to number 2 and number 1, these are the top spots, and both of these effects are excellent. I like both of them almost equally, really. Number 2, which you may like a little more than number 1 for whatever reason or not. I don't know. I guess it's, again, like up to personal taste, really. But number 2 on my list goes to Boris Wilde and his perfect open prediction. And for many of you, this will probably be virtually a perfect open prediction effect. All of the handling is well justified. And what I think is the strongest part about it is that there's no extraneous movements. There's no unmotivated movements in the routine. I'm going to actually show you guys a demo of what it looks like in case you're not familiar with it, but this is an excellent gaff version. It's so simple to perform and it gets really strong reactions. So let's take a quick look at my demo of it. All right, here's a quick demo of the perfect open prediction by Boris Wilde for those of you that are not familiar with the effect. In the usual fashion of the open prediction, you explain what it is, and we're going to be using the 9 of clubs. You can either write that down on a piece of paper, maybe you have the card from another deck. You explain to the spectator that in a moment, I'm going to give you the deck of cards, and I want you to just deal them like this, face up, and you're going to be looking for the 9 of clubs as you deal them. But somewhere along the line, I want you to deal one card face down, maybe where you get an urge or maybe a sensation or some intuition. And so they're going to do just that. They're going to deal cards face up, looking for the 9 of clubs. Oh, wow, look, there's the 10 of clubs. So that was close. Whoa, look, there's the other black 9, but not the 9 of clubs. Somewhere along the line, they're going to deal one card face down, and you tell them, continue to deal the rest of them face up, looking for the 9 of clubs. So they continue dealing. Of course, looking for the 9 of clubs, and as you can expect, as you get to the end of the pack, suspense builds up because they don't ever find a 9 of clubs. Look, there's an 8 of clubs. There's no 9 of clubs. So logic dictates that the one card they dealt face down must be the 9 of clubs. We're done. And obviously they're going to be like, wait, is there even a 9 of clubs in here? You say, like, let's take one more look. You spread the cards out looking for the 9 of clubs. You say, oh, I don't see one in here. And of course, here's the card that you dealt face down. And over here we've got this black 9, but no 9 of clubs anywhere here. So that's crazy. We have one reverse card, the card that you dealt face up. Let's take a look at what it was, or the card you dealt face down, which was, of course, the 9 of clubs. And they can see that the rest of the deck is all face down, so that's it. Finally, moving along to my number one Gaffed open prediction effect, and this belongs to none other than Ed Marlowe, which probably doesn't surprise you. You can find his open prediction number 12, which was published in Sticks and Stones in 1977. Now, the effect in principle has been reinvented multiple times. In the 90s, Gary Ouellette put out his Proton deck, which was essentially the exact same thing. And more recently, maybe like 4 years ago, Todd Lamansk put out his Prophecy deck, which again is the exact same effect and mechanism as Ed Marlowe's version. You may have seen it on Penn and Teller's Fool Us. All right, so we're going to take a quick look at Todd Lamansk's performance here on Fool Us. And I'm just going to quickly narrate this, and we're going to actually skip through it pretty quickly just to give you an idea of how powerful this Gaff version of the open prediction effect is. You can present the deck just like he does here, where every card is totally different. It looks very convincing. She looks convinced. And he has already presenting now the open prediction. He's put out a bill, almost like a gambling feel. It's kind of funny here how he's explaining really slowly how he wants her to deal. So that way there is absolutely no confusion of what she's to do. He must have been a little bit nervous on national television because this whole effect really depends on the spectator following extremely simple instructions if you think about it. So let's skip ahead here a little bit, and as she gets the deck, she's going to start dealing cards. And of course, she has the ability to stop wherever she wants to stop. So we're going to just kind of skip ahead there. And as she's dealing there, at some point here, she decides that she wants to stop. Of course, they're looking for the open prediction as she's dealing. So she decides there. Now, this is kind of funny here. You could see Todd Lamansk, it looks like he doesn't even want to touch the cards. You could see he's like, look, I'm just squaring up here, right? Because the reality is that all of this can be done completely in the hands of the spectator, which is what makes this version of Ed Marlowe so strong. So, okay, let's skip ahead a little bit. So again, he's going to have her deal that one card face down, and then he's going to have her deal some more cards face up in the usual fashion, looking for the open prediction. And here he's kind of in a way, walk her through it, you know, turn the deck over and continue dealing, looking for it. And we're going to skip ahead a little more. And she goes, obviously, she's going to go through all the cards looking for the open prediction. She doesn't find it. She squares them all up. And like I said, this all can be done in the spectator's hand, which is great. Turns it over. Obviously, there's only one card that's face up in this case now, the one that she stopped at. And he's reiterating exactly everything that she did. And now he's going to spread out the deck. We'll just move ahead to that spot where he's going to spread out the deck now and show clearly that there's only one card that's face up, the card that he predicted. You know, he probably should have had her spread the deck because she could have. You know, anybody could have. It probably would have been stronger if she had done it, because then it would have been really completely in her hands. That is the basic effect. That's the effect that Todd Lamansk performed on Penn and Teller's Fool Us using the exact same method, gimmick, gaff that Ed Marlowe introduced back in 1977. Now, for those people that are interested, I will tell you a couple other things. You can actually track down the inspirations of this method. It was published in Ebidem number 3 by Stewart James. I think it was his open prediction version 16 there. You can find it. So you can track that down if you're interested in looking at the origins. You'd like to check out the history of this. And for those of you that want an extra bang for your buck, I would recommend you check out Daniel Young's Open Dreams effect. Now, this was put out by Big Blind Media a few years ago. I don't even know how much it's going for anymore, but the reason I mention it to you guys is because Daniel Young has taken the open prediction effect. He took this Gaff version and he elevated it by adding a very interesting mental flair to it, an emotional presentation that draws the spectator in. Not only are you predicting the card that they stop at, but you're also predicting a random time that the spectator mentions. So I really liked the idea and the notion of introducing this idea that you know, most of us when we wake up in the morning, have you ever noticed that we wake up around the same time? And all of us can relate to this, which is what makes the presentation so intriguing to the spectator. Now, if there was any doubt that the spectator that was going to stop at any other card, that is dispelled when they see that on the card you have predicted the random time that they have named. Extremely powerful, very strong. I've gotten awesome reactions with it, which is why I'm mentioning this to you guys, because it may have flown under your radar. This is why you watch this channel, to learn about effects like this that you may not have noticed. Anyway, I'm going to end the review with a full uncut trailer of the effect that was put out of this effect, and you can check it out and you can see what it looks like. As usual, if you guys have any questions or comments about this review, please just leave me your comment below. I hope that these reviews are helping you guys out, and I hope that I'm saving you some money. When I see people leaving me comments and telling me stuff about my reviews, it definitely does help me understand, you know, how I'm helping people or not, which is why I tell you guys to, you know, if you have any questions or whatnot, just leave them below. Anyway, let's take a look at the effect by Daniel Young, and then I'll see you guys on the next review.
Using some playing cards, but we'll come back to those in a minute. It's all about that phenomenon when you wake up in the morning, just 1 minute before you set your alarm. I don't know if you guys have experienced that, yeah? Yeah? Out of curiosity, what time do you set yours for?
7:30.
7:30, okay. And you set yours for?
8 o'clock.
8 o'clock. Right, okay, I'm going to try something. First of all, can you shuffle cards, by the way?
Yeah.
Or try at least, yeah. I'm going to give you some cards there, if you can try to give those a shuffle. I'm going to write something down in the meantime. There we go. There we go. You done with that? Wonderful. And tell you what, could you actually hold on to the that for now? Don't show it to anyone just yet. In a moment, I'm going to deal cards face down like this into your hand. And at any point you like, you say stop. And that will be the moment just before the alarm goes off. In fact, I'm going to deal them face up, and then when you say stop, I'm going to deal one face down. So if you just hold out your hands for me, please. So I'm just going to deal them like this.
Stop.
Here?
Yep.
So this one? Don't want to change your mind? Or?
Yeah, put it down.
Okay. So you could have stopped here, it would have been a different card, or this one, or in fact, it could have been any of these cards. We chose to say stop at that particular point. Let's have a little look, see what you stopped at. There we go, that's the 4 of diamonds, which in and of itself doesn't really mean anything, I know. But I did write something down before we started, so if we can show the C, you will wake up at the 4 of diamonds. So if we look a little bit closer at the 4 of diamonds, you can see that I've actually drawn a little picture. It's a picture of an alarm clock, because you said your alarm would go off at this point. And not only that, but if you look at the time on the alarm clock, you can see it's 8 o'clock, which is the exact same time that you said you set your alarm for.
So it's actually that 4 diamonds.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Thank you.
Wow. Okay.